All right, I am recording because I have the power. I have the technology now.
Oh, we've made our way into the future, and
we
it is now.
we certainly have. Do you have enough time? Is it still good, or should we reschedule?
I'm good. I'm still good.
Okay, beautiful, sweet. Well, then we are recording. Thank you for your patience. I absolutely appreciate it.
Yeah, not a problem.
Sweet. All right. Well, let's go ahead and rock and roll then. We won't waste any time.
Cool.
Hello, and welcome to the Rock Metal Podcast. I am your host, John Harris, and on my right-hand side is usually my right-hand man, Gabriel, and he was here, but he went away somewhere, so if he comes back, that would be great. But today on the Rock Metal Podcast, we have Within the Ruins, and they have a new album called Black Heart, which is going to be released on November 27th via Entertainment One and Good Fight Music. Right now I'm being joined by Steve, and he's going to share some more information about this amazing album that's going to be coming out, a couple of amazing tracks with really killer music videos, and what the band has been up to, what they've got coming up, because it's very exciting stuff. So, Steve, welcome to the show.
Oh, thank you, man, for having me. I really appreciate your time.
Yeah, absolutely great to have you on. Now, I think so much to talk about on this record, and I've got a bunch of notes across my desk here, and one in particular that I really wanted to expand on is I've got here that you guys have been working on the record for well over a year, and part of it was a new direction that is a little bit darker, a little bit angrier. I'm just curious, was that an organic thing? Did it just happen? You guys started writing tracks and it started coming out sounding a little bit different and you thought, let's go with it? Or was that like your yogic intention? You guys knew that you wanted to do that and you worked on it until you got it to where you wanted it?
I'd have to say that it kind of started off with me and the lyrics I was writing and had already written. I kind of knew I had a bunch of stuff that was already written down on my phone. Like I've got a lyrics section that I'm always, adding to. And with the first few tracks that we did, I was coming into the studio with Joe and laying them down, and he was getting an idea of where I was coming from and what I needed to say. And after, I want to say at least after like 2 or 3 tracks, he was like, okay, I get it. He's pissed about some stuff. And so he kind of actually started to change his writing a little bit around there. And then he adjusted and started making the things that he was writing a little bit angrier and more pissed off as well. And it kind of just, it was natural from there. At the beginning, it was kind of only me, like, I got to say this stuff. And then after a few tracks, he was like, okay, I get it. And it worked out because I found out later that, they had some other stuff that before I joined the band that the band was getting kind of upset about. And they had some things that they were angry with too. And it kind of worked out naturally that we both kind of had that feeling, and we were, kind of met in the middle and like, okay, this, after, like I said, a few tracks, it turned into, okay, this is going to be a pissed off record. So Joe we started bouncing back and forth at that point once Joe knew where I was coming from. So he started doing the same thing.
Well, that's cool. So you came in swinging, and they were like, man, new guy, I don't know if we should come out full force yet or not. And it seems like you brought that out. Are you guys pissed off about the same things, or is there like a collusion of anger on the record?
It's like it's sort of a collusion. I mean, like a lot of the stuff that I was mad about and upset, it was like some personal things that I had been going through the past few years, even before I actually joined the band. And it was stuff that I had written out already, just because that's what I'm used to doing. If I've got stuff that I need to say and I have a cool way of doing it, I like to write it out. So at least the idea is out there for me. And it was a lot, like I said, a lot of personal stuff. An issue, like an ongoing issue with a specific girl for like over 2 years, and everything you could imagine that could go wrong in a relationship definitely went wrong, and it was just very dragged out. So that was a lot in a long time of nonsense, I guess, and then which kind of stemmed some other issues from that with other things in my life, like my job and some stuff, and then probably about 3 years ago also, one of my best friends took his own life, so there's a song about that in there. It's just a lot of like dark, angry stuff about pretty much everything going on in my world at the time for a while. And then so I brought all these personal things to the table, and then stuff on Joe's end was a little bit more behind the scenes, and with the band and stuff, they just kind of had their own issues going on, not with each other, but just with kind of how do I say it? Like some personal stuff from them as well. And they he kind of met me in the middle, like I said, on that. And so we both ended up having our own issues, and we're like, let's just do this together, and we can all be angry as one cohesive unit. So it worked out really well.
Anger Anonymous group. Hi, I'm Steve, and I'm angry.
Hi, Steve.
Hi, Steve. I'm
Joe, and I'm angry too.
I'm angry too. Hey, Joe.
Yeah.
The 12-step program to dealing with your anger.
Yeah, except we only got 10 steps because there's 10 tracks, so we're going to have to make it short.
Yeah, well, I mean, there could be maybe an EP coming with the other 2 steps. So that's kind of an interesting concept now that I think about it.
Possibly. Well, there's like those first few tracks before we actually knew where we were going. Those actually, they're not bad songs. We were kind of just feeling it out at the very beginning of the writing process for it. So, I mean, they might show up on, like an international release as bonus tracks or something, or B-sides, what have you. So, I mean, they might show up down the road. So we may get those 12 steps after all. Who knows? Down the line.
Test pancakes. You could maybe out of brand, but you guys would call it the test pancakes. These are the first pancakes to hit the griddle. And
exactly. Yeah.
They're still delicious.
They're still good. They're still pancakes. Let's be real. They're still pancakes. I'm gonna eat them.
Exactly. Beautiful. Yeah, it says here you had a mountain of things to get off of your chest, and well, it sounds like you did. I mean, wow, a lot to go through, and it's just those times of life, and especially coming into this year, 2020. I imagine everything just got better for you, Steve.
Oh, absolutely. Isn't it obvious? Man, why even touch on the subject? Things are so great.
I know.
Yeah.
But I mean, it kind of brings you to the question, because this year, initially it started off with, let's talk about that postponed tour. When is it happening? And now it's the, well, just give up on life question. So,
it's changed a bit, yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, take us through, you guys got the record produced, written, ready to release it to the world. Was it always going to be released this time of the year, end of November, or has the schedule been changed because of COVID?
Not necessarily because of COVID, although I think that originally did play like a small role, or not originally. I mean, at the end, it kind of played a role, maybe a little bit. But we had, because it had been taking so long to actually get done, that plans would just kind of shift back a little bit, a couple different times. Like it was going to be, we thought, at one point it was going to be a spring release, and then it became fall, like late summer, I think, and then it turned into fall. It shifted a couple times, but only towards the end was it probably about dealing with the COVID situation. It was kind of just because it was a matter of getting Paolo and I out to the studio in Massachusetts. There's usually like a couple of months, 2 or 3 months in between recording sessions. So that, if there was extra planning involved or something comes up and we have to postpone a little bit, then it would get pushed back a little and pushed back a little. So, I mean, it's been a big work in progress for a long time. And COVID was kind of just the last straw where we're like, well, we can't really sit on this much longer. So we're we need to put it out now. And we want to get it in before the end of the year. So here we are getting our potential album of the year candidate in at the buzzer. So. We'll see how that turns out. But yeah, it was just little by little getting pushed back. And then eventually we're like, okay, it's done. Let's pick a date. And we all decided that before the end of the year was the right thing to do. So tours or no tours, we're going to do it.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And going into these music videos for the tracks that I have anyway, that have music videos, Blackheart and Deliverance. Blackheart, it just immediately makes me think of this Chinese business book, Thick Face Blackheart. And I'm pretty sure this is not about that business book.
Not that I'm aware of. Maybe inadvertently, but not on purpose, no.
Is this related to the lady that wouldn't go away?
Yeah, Blackheart's the lady. Yeah. It's in a way she wouldn't go away, but it was also like she kept going away but then would come back. And it was this long, like I said, drawn out process that took a couple of years to finally be like, you know what, this is just bad for my health. I'm out of here. That's what Blackheart is. Yeah. And then kind of as a metaphor, which honestly, I can't say that I planned this part out. This did come after the fact, but I did think about it a little bit as a metaphor. Kind of a lot of the songs, except for maybe a couple, actually stem from Blackheart. So Blackheart being maybe the most important one on the album, at least to me anyways. But if you look at the album as a whole, I think because it's kind of the main focus and everything else is either dealing with the aftermath or the thought process of what happened there. You know, kind of in the way that your heart is obviously your most important organ. I would say that Blackheart be the most important song on the album. So most of them are related in one way or another, except for like one or two and the instrumental tracks that Joe wrote. But yeah, Blackheart I would say is the focal point, at least in some way.
Yeah, it was the title track, and you kind of mentioned incidentally, so it's not exactly a concept album based on a Blackheart, but basically
turned into that kind of after the fact. Like I knew I wanted to call that song Blackheart, and then it actually ended up, out of all the album titles we were cycling through and trying to decide on, we were actually just like, you know what, this kind of does in a way represent, you know, a lot of the feeling inside of each song, like where you might actually get to at the end of the road. This is just kind of the accepting of how you operate and what you've kind of turned into at the end of all these experiences. And after the fact, we decided that Blackheart should be the title for the album, not just the song.
Okay, beautiful. And I'm watching the music video, and you're assaulting the poor young man at the bar. It looks like, is that you?
Yeah. Well, he's like, I'm in there drinking too much because I'm going through all my shit, and then he decides to cut me off because I pull out a flask, and you can't be pulling out your own flask at a bar. So I'm just taking it too far and drinking too much. He cuts me off, and then I'm doing a little soul searching and realize, you know, start walking through the woods there. Yeah, that was fun. That was a fun scene though. We actually got to film that at Joe's Brewery at Tinbridge. Anybody that's been there can obviously recognize it, but that's where that scene was filmed.
Okay, it looks like you're actually pulling your heart out of your chest. Is that what's happening here?
Yeah, that's what's going on there. We actually, I wanted it to look like not over the top, but like enough to where it was kind of like, oh shit. And so we got a couple real pig hearts and just pulled that out. And the idea of the metaphor is like, well, that's the old one. That's the old version of yourself. And then finding the dirtier black gross heart, putting that in and accepting as like, that's who you are now. So that's kind of where what that's saying there in those final scenes of the video.
Okay. Did you guys film this before all the lockdowns and everything, or was this one of those videos where you guys had to pull, you know, rabbits out of your hat with all of the restrictions?
We definitely had to pull rabbits out of our hat for it. Like, we had to get a couple like test results in within 72 hours of entering Massachusetts, and we had to basically squeeze it into like a little over a weekend. So we did 3 music videos and a bunch of media content within like 2.5 days or so. It was a pretty, I don't want to say rushed because we got everything done that we needed, but like jam-packed, I guess is how I'd say. We squeezed all the videos into a weekend essentially and got some extra content in there. And, you know, it was that was pretty much most of the traveling we had to really do, because we finished all the recording process by the time the lockdown hit. So we were basically ready to start getting it mixed and mastered so we could kind of be at home after quarantine started and we could just be listening to all the tracks after that. But we only had to really do that main bit of traveling to get the videos done. And that was a couple months ago now. So otherwise we've been playing it safe at home.
Okay, sounds good. Now I'm watching the video for Deliverance. What's the black stuff it looks like it's gooping onto a rock? What's going on in Deliverance?
The a lot of the stuff I'll premise that with a lot of the stuff on the album is very thought out in regards to the lyrics especially, but then the album artwork is representative of a lot of those. There's a few different metaphors going on with the album artwork itself, and then we tied that into the videos so that that black goop, you could easily just consider it just blood from the black heart dripping onto the to the keys. If you see the keys floating in the video, those keys are on the album cover. There's a few of them. One he's dropping from his hand. There's a couple laying at his feet, and those keys are the attempts to unlock the cage he's got on his head, which is like a metaphor for being trapped in your own head with your own thoughts and kind of just feeling stuck there. And so we incorporated the keys from the album artwork into the Deliverance video. And if you actually look closely, they're in the Blackheart video as well. You can kind of see a couple quick shots of them at the riverbed where my feet are and where I toss the knife. So it's actually all kind of connected in little bits here and there that a little bit more than just the album artwork is planned out. We put it all in the videos too. So it kind of is in a way all tied together.
Wow. Very cool stuff. You know, I'll be honest, it's not very often that we get bands on the show who have such music that's well produced, but that also ties in the album artwork. Usually it's just some kind of an afterthought. Like, yeah, that looks cool. Let's kick it out there and get it over with. We got to go on tour.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I mean, we very much it was such a long process. We had time to think about all these things, and, you know, people are expecting things to be at a certain level if they're going to have to wait, 2.5 years in between albums, or, 3 years almost, I guess. They're going to be expecting something, and we wanted to put as much thought and effort into it as we could, and not just come up with, random art just to fit a random collection of songs. It kind of did turn into a whole theme, and it actually ended up being really cool the way all the videos fit together with the artwork and the lyrics, and they're all kind of tied together in this big whirlwind of a concept. So it actually ended up being really cool, and we're stoked on how it turned out.
Mm-hmm, absolutely. You mentioned 3 years. In that 3 years, I imagine one of the changes was you joined the band, correct?
Correct. Yeah. 2018, early 2018 is when I hopped in. So we're actually approaching a little over two and a half years now. We're coming up on 3. So getting close. Yeah. That was one of the big changes for, obviously. Yeah.
Okay. I was going to ask, from your perspective, what sort of, how you changed the outfit?
Maybe in a couple different ways. And none of these are anything that's like a slight against him or anything, because our Pal and I's old band, Silence the Messenger, we've been friends with Within the Ruins for a long time, since 2009. So our bands have known each other and been friends for a while now. So when I did take over, Tim was very gracious about it, and he was, sad, but at the time knew what was best. And he's like, I'm glad that if anybody's taking over for me, that it's you. So I'm stoked about that. And he had his own way of doing things, and I've had my way of doing things. I think coming from STM is a little bit more of I'm not a fan of the subgenre titles and whatever, but it's a little bit more of like a deathcore, metalcore style, versus obviously Ruins is a lot more technical and genty or progressive metal, whatever you want to call it. Progressive metalcore. I don't really care. So my background is a little. The thing is, you say those subgenres and they sound dumb, but people know what you mean by them for the most part, because they're so common and used. And to me, I'm just whatever. I know what you're saying, so I'll just use them, to get the point across. But everyone's got their own feelings about them, but I don't really care.
It's terribly hilarious because for my job, I'm actually a chef by trade, and that's what I do. 40 hours a week. And a lot of times we listen to music, and there are some people sometimes I've come across, especially, I don't know if it's just a culinary thing, but cooks who come through or whatever, they've got it down. No, this is actually post-secondary melodic technical. I'm like, they look at me weird when I'm like, I don't know, man, it's just metal. Obviously Pantera sounds different from Sepultura because they're different bands, but okay, so clearly you do not hear and they start going into some weird. I'm like, I don't know,
obscure details and shit. You're like, I mean, yeah, I hear what you're saying, but also, does it really matter? I mean,
and
yeah,
so
I get it.
I always find it funny when I'm actually like, well, actually chat with these bands. They're like, oh, do they realize it? I'm like, no, to them they're just writing music, so.
Yeah, we're just kind of trying to do what we want to do, and it's just the internet takes over after it's out there. Then it's not in your hands what you are anymore. It's up to the people. Like, it's usually how it goes.
Yeah.
So.
All right, beautiful.
Yeah.
So sweet. So Steve, we chatted about the album Black Heart, the track Black Heart, the track Deliverance. We chatted about a couple of music videos, what went into creating what I'll call a masterpiece.
Oh, wow, thank you.
Oh, you're quite welcome. And I was actually kind of watching for the keys in the music video, and I think I saw them when you're going there with the pig hearts. Which in the middle of coronavirus, like, hey, I don't know how you found pig hearts, but awesome.
Yeah, the guys at I got to give the guys at the King Wolf Creative some props for that one. I was like, I don't really know how you would go about it, but I'd like to, if possible, use like some real hearts instead of like maybe like fake prop ones. I wanted it to look real. And they found a local butcher. One of them knew somebody, and just the guy happened to have some spare ones, and he got like a 3-pack of them, like all wrapped up in like saran wrap, like you would buy chickens or steaks or something, like just wrapped up, like ready to go, like in plastic. And they were super cheap. They were like fucking $3 or something.
Oh yeah, no.
So
whenever I walk into a butcher and I always ask for some off cut of meat, they always get excited. They start dancing because everybody wants, like the filet mignon steak, and then I come in and I'm like, no, give me the shoulder meat, give me the kneecap, give me something.
Yeah,
like,
give me that weird shit.
Yeah, and they're like, oh, what are you gonna do with it? I'm like, well, I'm a chef, so I'm gonna. And then we just start talking shop in front of everybody. They get lost, and they're just like, can I spend $30 on a steak? And he's just start, yeah, you do that.
It's like, yeah, sure. I'm trying to help this guy that's trying to spend $6.
Yeah, exactly.
I want to talk to this guy.
Because I can sell this now. I don't have to throw it out and waste a perfectly good pig heart. So hopefully you guys, braised it and had some stew or something with it.
Oh, we definitely, I don't know. Nobody was awake at that. I filmed those scenes, like, that was at the end of the second video shoot all on the same day. We shot Devil and Me that morning, like that first half of the day, which is going to drop the day of the album. And then Blackheart, we shot all the performance scenes, and then at nighttime. And then the guys were kind of like tired after that, but I still had to do my storyline stuff. So I was by myself walking around the woods with a couple of guys filming that stuff. And, by the time we were done, it was at least like midnight or 12:30 or 1 or something like that, late at night. And nobody was trying to do anything. A couple of guys were passed out upstairs by the time I finished. And I was like, oh, cool. You guys have a good nap, or, while I was out there doing work, you fucking bunch of bums.
Mm-hmm.
So nobody was trying to eat at that point. So we actually just tossed the hearts into the water. I hope maybe some fish or I don't know what other big cats are out there or something out in Massachusetts. Maybe got a hold of it or something, but didn't end up cooking them. I don't know if anybody would have wanted to at that point though. So
very true.
True. Because they had all this blood on them and river water and mud and shit. So
yeah,
who knows?
Back to the earth from which it came.
Yeah, in a way, flora and fauna.
Beautiful. All right. Well, is there anything else that you wanted my audience to know, or did we cover everything?
I think we more or less covered everything. I was gonna say, when we were talking about the differences I brought to the table, we kind of got off a smidge, but the biggest thing, I guess, when you're listening to this record is, obviously I'm coming from a very personal, angry place. And like I said, Joe kind of co-opted that as well. And the music he started writing ended up being a lot darker and more aggressive as well. And so it's going to be a Within the Ruins record that you haven't heard before. It's coming from a different spot for Joe and from a different spot from a new vocalist. So it's going to be a little different when you listen to it. But I just hope that everyone likes it. And I appreciate everyone's support so far, and everyone seems to be loving the tracks. And until shows get back going again, who knows when that'll be, just keep jamming, listen to all of it, get the words in your head, and be ready to scream along with me.
Beautiful. All right, well, thank you so much for coming on to the Rock Metal Podcast then, Steve. Yeah,
man, thank you for having me. I really appreciate the opportunity to talk about it.
Beautiful. right, you want to go ahead and stop, please, sweetie?